right. Welcome everyone to another episode of Creative Habits Podcast. We have a very special guest today, Asha Elana Casey, a contemporary artist, painter, and mixed media artist. She began her artistic training through Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C. Casey is a graduate of Corcoran School of Art
Whoop, whoop.
and Anderson Ranch residency recipient. She currently lives and works in DC.
Thank you, Asha, for being here with us and discussing what you're all about and what you do.
No problem. I'm happy you guys are having me. I'm really excited to talk to you guys.
So take us on a journey as a creative. Who are you and when did you decide that you were an artist?
So I think I'll tell you guys the funny story.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been drawing have you guys ever seen Toonami or Cartoon Network?
Yes.
So I was little, me and my brothers, we'd run home after school and then we'd draw cartoons. We'd draw Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon. And then so my parents knew that, and I just got out of middle school and I was doing a lot of writing. So I really enjoyed literature then. And my neighborhood school is Anacostia. My brothers, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Anacostia, but my brothers, they got into DeMatha Catholic High School, which is a really good high school. And my mom was like, oh, this is your birthright. You're going to go to Elizabeth Seton. We was just Catholic school whole time. I did not get into that jank. Oh. I didn't have a high school to go to. And they was like, well, you be drawing sometimes. Why don't you apply to Duke Ellington, see what happens? And I got in. So luckily,
awesome.
I ended up with a high school, and I think that's truly when my artistic career began, because then they kind of trained me and made me think, okay, maybe I can do this.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So why art? What keeps you motivated to do art?
Why art? So when I thought about that question, I was like, why not art? But it's just something that's inherent in me. I just do it, It's really hard to explain why I do it, but I guess it's the way I tell stories. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about my art, I think about, okay, I'm telling a story. And so if you look at the pieces, they're kind of in chronological order, and different things are emerging as this journey continues. So I guess I make art because I have shit to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what opportunities have come your way and shaped you into the artist and educator that you are today?
Ooh, I guess Duke, if I didn't get in there, I don't know what I'd be doing. Mm-hmm. So you start there, and then they gave me the technical know-how to just be able to navigate art and make really technical, strong pieces, rendering skills. I got that from them. But it wasn't until I went to the Anderson Ranch residency, my 11th grade year, where I was really considering, okay, I could actually be an artist. So there I learned different tools and silk screening and printmaking. And I had a brief stint as a printmaker. So it's Duke, Anderson Ranch, Corcoran. That made me a researcher. So I was I don't know how you felt this way, but being there, I felt like I had to prove that my ideas were valid.
Mm.
Yes. You were Black, so.
Basically, right? So I had to kind of prove that I was just as smart as they were, if not smarter. And then I had to back everything I had with actual literature and intellectual scholar stuff. So that made me a researcher. And I think I could also credit Nation House, as an institution that kind of shaped what I was doing, because my art wouldn't look this way if I didn't walk through there and teach there.
So what is Nation House for our listeners who don't know, and what did that opportunity do for you or your artwork?
So Nation House is a private African-centered school. It's based in DC. Mm-hmm. And actually, Handi, I don't know if you remember, but you recommended it to me. So, Yeah, so like I was walking around and I think you were just looking at Black folks. Anybody want to be an art teacher?
I was
And
actually just looking at you because I knew what you could bring to the school and your expertise. And yeah, so I was like, yeah, I think she will be a right fit. So,
oh, okay, that makes me feel so good. I didn't know that. I thought you were like looking at all like the
no,
Black
I was looking at you.
students. So yeah, so Hani told me about it, and then I applied and I got it. And what's really great about that school is that the framework is African everything, Black everything. And so that was the first time in my life that I looked at Blackness from a lens of power.
Mhm.
Like, I think the only thing they teach us about Black people in DCPS is like Malcolm X for like a tiny second. They don't want us to get too hip. But there's like a tiny bit of Malcolm, like a whole lot of Martin, and like a smidge of Harriet. And so that's like pre-K all the way through 12th grade. They don't really teach us shit about them for real. And so it was like a whole different perspective. And then I even started digging into my own spiritual practices and learning about myself as an artist and what I wanted to tell people.
So you would say that learning about yourself and I guess your spiritual practices are more influenced in your art today rather than before you learned all that?
Yeah, for sure. And if we want to get real technical, before I got to Corcoran, I was an abstract artist. I mean, I made portraits just off the strength of I want to get a good score on the drawing AP test. But most of my art was geometric abstract. So you can kind of see that in like the bodies of like the figures I'm painting. But it wasn't until I got to Corcoran I thought, okay, I need to actually make myself seen and heard and visible. It was something about being viewed by a white audience that made me think I need to be firm in who I am as a God and as a representation of God, because I'm surrounded by people who don't even see me as human.
Right. And when I first met you, that's a wonderful introduction to the question that I wanted to ask you. It's because when I first met you at the Corcoran, you were in your early stages of transforming your art. Because I remember the abstract, and I remember that there was a conflict between how you wanted to portray yourself and what you wanted to say. So the skill was there, but there was a lack in how you wanted to present your voice. So your painting style was monochrome there, from what I remember, was it? Or you were starting to get there? Is there a specific reason why you chose to paint primarily in black and white and why you continue to do so today?
Yes. So it's a few reasons, but the first reason is if you look at like really old pieces of mine, I don't have it on my website, but there's a piece called Kessie in White Space and another piece called Samiri Kessetep. And the piece of Kessie in White Space is this very white background. She has brown skin and she's wearing this gold dress, right? And I painted her with brown skin in the white space because I literally feel like a racialized figure in white spaces. So it was that literal conversation. And I got that from a quote. I think this is Zora Neale Hurston quote. I feel the most black against stark white backgrounds. And I like took that and ran with it. And so that was the framework for that. And then the black piece is in black and white because when I'm surrounded by blackness, I'm just
understanding of what the premise is, but just the way that you simply define that is amazing.
Thank you.
It's real because it's real. You know, we all have those similar experiences when we're in certain spaces. We feel a certain way as opposed to around our own people. So yeah, that was great. Do you have any?
What's the underlying message that you would like to portray in your work? Is there like one specific theme, or is it like a plethora of different ideas that come to you?
Yeah. So I want to say before I get into that too, like I'm talking about spaces, right? So it started as like the white and black space, but after leaving undergrad, it turned into a gold space because I was just kind of honoring being a Black goddess person. Then it turned into a meditative space as I was trying to figure out, well, who I am and how am I existing. And now it's a space of me actually existing on a spiritual realm. So it's, if you want to think of it as an enlightened space, that's kind of the new space that I'm painting in. And so I guess the message I'm going to tell people with my work is I found God in myself and I loved her fiercely by Ntozoke Shange.
Yes.
And the hope is that you guys will find God when you look at me and then love yourself fiercely too. And actually, Mama Mavu told me that.
That's my mom, everyone, for the listeners that don't know.
And so she was like, it seems like your art's about this. And I was like, yeah. And I just ran with it.
Yeah. But that's really powerful when you say that, because the moment that you are enlightened and are in tune with yourself, you don't need permission from others to define who you are. And you actually don't feel a certain way in spaces because you're in tune with knowing, you know, how powerful of a person you are. And everybody shines similar lights. Yeah.
Is it hard to show that light to people who aren't, especially Black people, who aren't on that specific path as you are, or who relate to you?
You would think that, but something I've noticed is like, as you like get higher up in the art world, the people who buy your work start to be more and more white. And so it's like, I think the message of godliness is a universal message. And so I'm finding a lot of different types of people like resonating with the work, or at minimum the colors and the patterns, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's really important.
No problem.
So what inspires you?
So much. I mean, like literature, like right now I'm reading Zora Neale Hurston's folk tales, Mule and Men, and I'm thinking about like particularly the way they describe God. And there's one story I really like that was talking about people not receiving their souls because their clay not dry. And I was like, oh, that's deep. And they describe the souls as like diamonds. Like God put their souls in a jar as he kind of waited for their clay to dry. And they're like very they're like diamonds and shiny and glass-like. And just hearing that, I thought I need to get rhinestones, like diamond rhinestones, and I need to start putting that in my work, you know? And so like reading literature really informs me. My research of just like deities and gods, I've been focusing a lot on the Ifa tradition. And so, and that is a spiritual tradition based in Nigeria, but it's through the diaspora, the Orisha are understood and venerated throughout, right? So you have people like with different sects like Lukumi, which is also known as Santeria. Some of that happens in Voodoo in Haiti, and then there is like Candomblé that happens in Brazil. And so this general idea of people understanding their spirit and taking that with them to different aspects, and it still happens in America too. So you find people practicing Lukumi in like New York and DC and all that stuff.
Beautiful.
And it's interesting that even though people might not know about those different topics, it still resides within us today. Like people might pour libations for a fallen homie or something like that, or you know, just the percussion in our music and the way we call and response during like performances. It's like
very similar.
It will always ripple within us, no matter how far or how separated we are from the continent.
Yes, and so, and I hope to like, that's such a great point. Thank you, Phil. And it's just like, I hope that like, at some point I can kind of marry those things. I mean, when I think about my art, like right now, I'm kind of looking at the ancestors with the folk tales and like some of that stuff, because although I am like thinking about the Orisha, I have ancestors who are like very close to me, who are very Christian and very like devout. And it's like, how do I honor that path too? And see that it's still valid despite colonization.
Right. Okay, so too often we beat ourselves up as artists when it comes to where we are versus where we see ourselves. What are your strategies for making the best of the situation you are in until you reach your defined level of success?
I mean, I can't even hold y'all. Like sometimes I be beating myself up. I be like, man, I'm great. Niggas can't see that.
Right.
but I think that's everyone too, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, unless your self-esteem is kind of low, like you see what you bring to the table
Mm-hmm.
and you see your brilliance. And I think for me, I really love manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
So once you like honor who you are and what you have to bring to the table, then you have to walk in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I literally like walk in those thoughts. So I'll be like, this is what I look like when I'm here. This is what the art looks like here. This is what it feels like. This is, and I imagine that reality for myself and it feels like it's closer to me. So it's like, I would say if you're beating yourself up, that means that you see something greater for yourself, but also be kind to yourself too. Life is short. I think it all happens in stages. So just keep making, take a break if you need to take a break, learn really who you are, and then let that reinvigorate the work.
Nice. So what's your creative habit outside of painting? What keeps you motivated and centered?
Creative habit. I used to do African dance. That was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It like invigorated me, but I don't know about a creative habit because I just like watch TV and stuff. But maybe writing and like walking, because I would say like just walking and being active physically. I don't know if it's creative, but
I mean,
it's definitely
anything that basically keeps you centered. It doesn't have to be creative. It can be, working out, walking, and whatnot.
But you did not mention that you do research for your work. That's a creative habit, is constantly finding information to produce. And have a certain level of context and meaning behind your pieces. That's a creative habit. A good one.
Wow. I didn't think of it as a creative habit, but I think that's very cool. Like that gives me a new perspective because I like drown in research, and I'm like, and I think there's something about communities you surround yourself with too. Like you meet different people, and then even just being around them then becomes research. Like, hey, can you help me with this? They give you something, you give them something, and you're just learning. So everyone's learning something,
Yeah, definitely.
So how can we learn more about your future projects?
Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram. All right, we'll put your information in the disclaimer. So name something you love and why. It could be anything.
Anything?
Yeah.
My first thought was like mom.
I mean, that's cool. Something. Yeah. That's someone.
Yeah, and I'll say, and I want to mention my dad too. And so I'll say my family in general because they help me with my practice. Like my mom always sends me stuff and like inspiration and like support. My dad, I don't drive, so my dad literally takes my big, huge paintings everywhere they need to go.
I've witnessed that before and I love it more than once. And I think it's so beautiful that family supporting you in that way. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, and it goes like my brothers. So if I have like a big like de-install or something, then my brothers will come through and help. Or like it's simple stuff like I want to put art up in my apartment. Both my brothers and my dad came through, helped me put my art up. So it's like I would say my family because they really, really support my vision. And they also want like nice things when I get money for that support. But yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
My mom said the universe unfolds as it should. And she said that since I was really little. And I kind of think about that when, those stressful moments of like, why hasn't this happened yet? And when I don't receive something I think I'm really qualified for, like maybe a residency, I then chalk it up to there's something bigger for me during this time right now.
Absolutely.
And so the universe unfolding as it should kind of justifies the things that happened to my career.
Two things. What do you like about your work, and what do you think that you can improve on?
What do I like about my work? I like that it's so authentically me right now. It's kind of scary in that sense, because when I'm painting like other people, it's like, okay, I want to make it kind of tame so that they like it, right? But then when I'm painting like myself and iterations of myself, I don't have anyone to answer to but me. And so it just kind of evolved into this. So I think that's what I love about my work, is that it's really me. It's so me, sometimes I don't even recognize it. It's like, wow. And something I want to improve on, better stuff to make the work. Like when I think about when I get a lot more money to put towards the work, I think about my art actually having like real things like glitter, like diamonds. Like I think about like actually these really expensive material goods that will actually go into the work.
Yes.
And like actual gems and like still the sparkles, because I like glitter. But you know, like I'm really excited for it to evolve in regards to the materials I can use, and also how I set up my composition. I'm still very limited to what I have at my disposal when I make my pieces.
What is the best piece of advice you could give an aspiring artist or student artist?
When applying to undergrad, look at your professors and the faculty that work there. If you don't want to be any of them and you don't want any of their accolades, do not go there. That is not where you should be, because people like go to college because it's a cute place to live. Like they'll be like, I want to be in New York, and then they'll go to like a crappy college where there's no one there to like support their career or to push them forward in the way that they want to be pushed forward. So that's what I tell my kids. I tell my kids that at Duke now, like in my professional practice class, I literally had them research the schools they wanted to go to, and then research the faculty and be like, do you like their work? Do you want the career that they have? Because they can only give you and take you where they've been.
So do you think going to a college or going to a higher level of education is beneficial, or is it a detriment to the process?
You know, it depends, right? So if it depends on which college you go to, it depends on who's surrounded by you, it depends on a lot. Like for example, if your mom is like a famous artist, right? And all of those artists are literally at your disposal. They want to help you. They want to support you. You don't have to pay for mentorship because it's already there for you. So why would you drop like $40,000, $50,000 on a college, whereas the people who work there aren't going to have the skill set that your mom has, right? But if you have no access to art at all, right? You've never made anything, and you just want to learn and succeed, then yeah, college is for you. You know, like if you need that push, college is for you. But in my experience, I found that undergrad just kind of gave me the confidence to think that my work could be expensive, and also that it could be intellectually sound. So if you have like a bunch of mentors around you and you can get that for free, I would get it for free. But I also want to put a value on the fact that I can work because I have a degree. Right. So because I have my BFA, I can be an art teacher. And I think that's important to add too. So if you want to be an art teacher or work in an art field that needs a degree, go to college. If you want to just be a full-time artist, don't.
How important is community, and how does that how important is community to you, and how does it affect your art?
Oh, it's so important, right? So like when we talked about like the institutions I went through, right? Like the Nation House community, the friends I've made there, I still lean on for like subject matter for my art and like materials and resources. Like, and then the friends I made at Ellington, and my coworkers, really, and my old mentors and teachers, they help me with my pieces. So I'll be like, hey, how do I fix this value, right? So they're like the technical people I can go to like answer some of those questions, and then they help me grow in my rendering skills. And my family, they actually get the art to where it needs to go and push me to think I can go bigger. So community is huge because I literally have my students, they'll be like, hey, why don't you try this? And I'm like, okay, sure. And then I try it and it's dope, you know?
Yeah.
So you just having people around you and just inspiring them too, and everyone's feeding off each other. I think community is so important.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. Just networking and trading ideas and gaining that energy from other people, like it drives you to create, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, how has your experience as an educator shaped the way you create?
Ooh, I think so. I briefly like went into it a little bit, and so it's just kind of like I when I'm in my classroom, I have my art pieces behind my desk. So I'll
Mhm.
have a piece like this one's kind of like 36 by 48. So I'll have an art piece right beside my desk, and when they're making their art, and it's like my seniors, I'll be making my art. And then they'll
Mhm.
come over and they'll ask me questions about it, or they'll be like, "Oh, this kind of looks like this that my family made," you know. So I'll have different students giving me their stories and talk to me about the work, and then I'll see them using glitter in their art pieces, which is really cool because
Mhm.
people don't do that at Duke. That's not like a thing. They're really like technical, and I want to make people look like people, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I think me being there encourages them to like experiment and have fun in their art. And I really enjoy that. So I guess being an educator, I've just been able to learn and teach and all at the same time. Because then my teachers who I work with, like I work with all the teachers who taught me.
Mhm.
So it's a very fun experience where it's like I'll go to them, I'll go to like Mr. E, for example. Can you help me with like the shadow, or like why doesn't it look good? He'll be like, do this, that, and third, and then it's like solid and straight, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's such a good place.
Yeah, sorry, the baby just woke up, so she had
It's
to tend to him real quick.
okay.
Um, besides glitter, you said you love glitter. What other materials do you use?
I use canvas, so I like attach canvas to like wood panel, canvas, wood panel,
Mm.
acrylic paint. I used to use oil paint. What else? Glitter paint. I have a piece right in front of me. What else I use? Mosaic tiles. Sometimes I use like they're they're like stains, so like silver and gold stains.
Okay.
But I kind of don't use them that much because they cause cancer. You know.
Mm. Okay.
So
um,
that's about it.
okay, okay. During these trying times, do you feel that okay, the George Floyd situation, the Breonna Taylor situation, do you feel that you have to use your voice, use your art to, I guess, document what's going on?
Honestly, I don't, but I
Mm,
do feel a call to actually provide resources, like leave that on my like social media pages, actually give money to like black owned businesses and
yeah.
support that way. So I don't feel called to reflect it in the work, but
Hmm.
I do feel called to actually reflect it in my actions.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think, you know, anytime there's tragedies, there's like art behind it, like art, really good art through tragedy produces really good art. And I was just a random question I wanted to ask you.
Hmm.
So how important is staying relevant as an artist?
It's like it feels really important, right? So the idea of like people looking at you, you showing, and people knowing that you're making work and like your price is steadily going up and you ending up in museums and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
It's important in that sense, but I don't think you should try to stay relevant in spite of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, so if you're just making work that's just pretty, but it has no like context to you, like it just doesn't mean anything to you, you just make it because you can draw, then I think that's not a good reason to make it. I think
Hmm.
when you make stuff, it should be yours, it should feel like you. So that's something I like to tell my kids. Like when I see something, I'm like, oh, this feels like you. Like, and that's such a good feeling to like see people's work look like them and feel like them just on an energetic level, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Representation definitely matters, you know, in the Black community, and I feel that we should always represent and show kids and people who look up to us, just give them a good example to follow by, you know. And,
Yeah.
just a quick random question: where do you see yourself and your art 10 years from now? Where would you like to be?
Hmm. So 10 years from now, I'd like to have maybe 2 residencies under my belt, which is just like maybe a year or so. You just go make art. And then you network with like people who put you in museums and stuff. Like, so I'd like that. I'd like to be in a few museum collections. I'd like to be represented by a gallery. 10 years from now, that's kind of where I see myself. And I'd also like to be in a place where some of my friends are these like artists who you see in museums, right? Like, and then that way I can pull on them to come to like my old high school and be like, hey, give these guys an artist talk, tell them what it's like on the other side. So I think for me, 10 years from now, I'd like to be able to tell my kids what it's like on the other side of, okay, you have the art career, you've made the art career money. Now I want to be able to give them so much. Like, I want them to be able to go to residencies when they're in high school, like I did, you know, like I want them to like have money to go on these fancy field trips, like to New York or to like Italy or France to just see like art.
Yeah.
So 10 years from now, I want to be able to do stuff like that for them.
What's the perfect residency you would like to like go? Like, what's the perfect location you wanted to go to?
Perfect location. I mean, I think Kehinde Wiley sounds pretty dope. His is in Senegal.
Nice, nice.
Right, and it just looks really cool. It's like it's called, I think, Black Rock Residency. So I think that would be a perfect one. But if I was to describe a perfect one, I would say one that gives me my current salary, one that gives me housing, one that is super well connected to like major museums in major cities, and one that will propel my art to be mad expensive.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it's like, I'm not a money person, right? So I come into some new money, I'm like, okay, I can give some to my dad or my mom, or like I can use it to do this. But in regards to material things, it doesn't really matter to me that much in regards to stuff like that. So I'm not like, I need to make money, but I know that having money affords me to help others and create spaces for Black artists and create stuff for my parents and, you know, make really dope art.
I'm manifesting Kehinde Wiley's residency for you, the one in Senegal. Have you heard of that?
She just told us. She just said that one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So do you have any other questions?
No, I don't. I think we've covered everything
Cool.
from what I heard.
We want to thank you so much for joining us today. And you dropped a lot of great gems. And I hope that anyone that listens to this will gain inspiration from your creativity and your journey.
And thank you. This has really like changed me. I took every question, like wrote down what I wanted to say to you guys, and
thank you so much.
I'm better for it. So
all right, thanks. So this concludes this episode of Creative Habits Podcast. We would like to thank you again. Do you have any like website or social media or any place where people can purchase or look at your work?
yes, so my website is my name. So it's www.ashaelanacasey.com.
Okay.
And Instagram, same, Asha Elana Casey. So everything's Asha Elana Casey. If you just type it in, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, my website.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again. And sorry about the baby.
Oh, no, it's okay. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.